Hi, this is Steve Gens, Managing Partner of Gens & Associates. We created this short video in conjunction with the public release of our white paper to give you some highlights from our 2016 World-Class RIM study of 54 companies. We have two goals for the short video. The first, what is world-class? And the second, to take a look at some of the results. First of all, how did we define world-class RIM? It started when we were debriefing several of the most highly ranked companies from our 2014 RIM survey. We called them the Super 7. We were actually surprised to find that some of them were disappointed with their ratings. They were happy to see that they were rated so highly against their peers, but they felt there was a lot more investment they had to make, value to create, get more efficient and more compliant with their RIM investments. So we did some research. We didn't find any standard from regulatory information management, unlike if you look at manufacturing, there's a world-class standard. In clinical, there's a gold standard on how you conduct clinical trials. So Greg Brolin, Sarah Powell, and myself decided to pursue this. In the summer of 2015, we created this year's survey, and we also took a position of what is world-class RIM, and more importantly, how do you measure it? The most critical part of the process was inviting 18 companies into 4 design sessions, one in Europe, 2 here in the US, and another one virtual, that comprised of large multinationals, mid-tier, smaller organizations. We had good representation from the medicinal side, from the generic side, and also the medical device. And finally, headquarter locations in Europe, Japan, and the US. So industry was well represented at these 4 design sessions. The result of that was 5 elements. So what we're going to be seeing shortly is several slides, and I would encourage you, some of them are very, very detailed with data that you might want to pause this video and take a close look at it while I give you the highlights from each slide. So let's take a look at the first slide. The first slide is our 5 core elements for world-class RIM. Starting at the top is data quality confidence. We measure 10 authoritative sources. The second is business benefit realization, where we had 25 metrics through 5 questions and looked at the confidence in the measures. Global reach really constitutes the global reach to the local affiliate and the regional office. Level of efficiency got the efficiency level of the 17 RIM categories. And finally, time to report information. Can it be done in hours, days, or weeks? So let's take a look at the data quality slide. In previous years, we only looked at, did you have a global authoritative source? So we fine-tuned it this year and really looked at the confidence of the data. So as we look at the graph, in the blue represents high confidence in the quality of the information. The green is moderate confidence. Yellow is low confidence. And there's still some companies still planning for an authoritative source. For example, in the product registration, 37% of the 52 companies had high confidence, a lot had moderate confidence, but several companies had very low confidence. Our next slide gets into business benefits. Again, we had 5 questions, so this is just a sample, and the most telling. In the blue, did the company achieve the business benefit? And we have about 11 or 12 different categories here. Where you see the sea of green, will achieve those targets in 2 years. What this tells us is that the majority of industry is still in investment mode or in implementation mode. And these very basic measures, such as increased user productivity, improved health authority interactions, better submission forecasting, will not be realized for 2 or 3 years. And for some of these categories, yellow represents not a priority. Our next slide gets into the global systems. Which global headquarters systems do the majority, 75% of the affiliates, use to enter or manage their regulatory or clinical information? Again, what we were getting at is the reach of global systems, that a true global system has to be in at least 75% of the local affiliates. So again, we can look at the ratings here in the blue where the sort is. In use today, for example, product registration, 47%. Have it out to the local affiliate level. Again, we see a sea of green, meaning it will be at the affiliate level in the next 2 years. And finally, some of these capabilities for some companies, there's no plan to have them at the local affiliate office. One thing that's very telling about this data is we asked the exact same question in 2014. And in 2014, again, there was a lot of green, meaning a lot of deployment in the next 2 years. So what this data tells us, there's relatively low progress in extending global systems because extending global systems and accounting for all the requirements at the local affiliate is hard to do. The next 3 slides are going to deal with the efficiency or level of efficiency, the time to report information, and then the final results or scatter graph of the 54 companies. Before we get into those, an important change we made in 2014 and 16, we used to ask companies as far as their effectiveness of the 17 RIM capabilities. And those were actually very, very high results, because if we think about most regulatory organizations, they're focused on compliance and quality. So having effective systems or effective processes, most companies rated themselves very high. When we switched it in 2014 and followed up again here in 2016, we focused on efficiency. And as you can see, the results are very, very different. So let's take a look at those slides. The efficiency data here is very busy, so this is a perfect place if you wish to pause this video and take a close look at it. We used a 4-point scale, so the blue represents where the sort is, very efficient and efficient, and the green represents not efficient or very inefficient. What's very surprising is if we look at the average of all companies and all 17 capabilities, it's a 39% average efficiency, which is very, very poor, with the exception on the far left, the submission production, which tends to be rated very high, the whole process of compiling the submission and sending it off to the health authority. There is actually good news in this data. The red asterisks represent progress or positive movement since 2014 for at least half of those capabilities. On our next slide is my favorite question, the time to report information, and it's very, very telling. So the scale we used in the blue is hours, the green is several days, the yellow is 1 or 2 weeks, and the red represents greater than 2 weeks. So if we take a look at the product renewal dates per country, can an organization report that out in hours? What has to happen? You need to have a global authoritative source. There has to be a high degree of confidence in that regulatory information in that system. And finally, you need to have a very efficient process. So this question 17 correlates very clearly those companies that have high efficiency ratings, high confidence in the quality of their data in their authoritative sources tend to answer most of these in blue, whereas companies that have many repetitive systems or there's low confidence in the data, meaning they're spending a lot of days or weeks verifying and compiling, calling that local affiliate out to see if the information is correct. Our final slide today is the scatter chart that gives you the 54 companies. Like all our benchmarks, we always sort this by the large, mid-tier, and small companies. So you can see that. The world-class level in the dark green line, we weren't expecting anybody to cross it. So the information you've seen so far, there's a low efficiency rating. Most companies, their business benefits won't be realized for another 2 or 3 years. There tends to be lower data quality ratings for a lot of companies, so we didn't expect anybody to surpass the world-class level. The strong performance level, there's several companies in there with some very strong ratings. We also believe in the survey, since most of the questions ask not only what do you have today, what are your priorities, investments, what are you going to be changing in the next 2 years? We believe about 20% of these companies will move across the strong performance line, and several will actually move past the world-class line when we do our next survey in early 2018. I hope this information was very valuable for you. If you haven't looked at our white paper, you can download it off the website. It gives a lot more detail than I was able to do in this short video. If you have any other questions, just go to our contact tab and send us an email. Again, I hope that this was very valuable, and thank you very much.